What is happening? So wanted to update you on what I've been going through, what I've been feeling, and it has been pretty unbelievable. So a little background. For the last 6 years, I've been dealing with chronic back pain, and feels like I did everything physically to try to figure out what was going on. And it started with an injury when I was 21, 28 now, and I thought that was because of this 6 years of debilitating back pain that I just could not figure out. And, naturally, you would think that the injury caused the pain. I was working out in the gym, doing lunges, felt like something in my back went, um, slipped a disc or something. And the MRIs, years later, or a couple of years after that, showed a bulging disc in my back. Um, but it is actually pretty normal. Like that is a injury that should recover pretty quickly, and anything lasting like more than 4 months is considered chronic. Not to fact check me on that, but it's around that. And this has been going on for 6 years. And I did everything physically. I tried all the physical therapy, chiropractors, different workout regimes, yoga, stretching, but nothing could get to the core of what was going on. And it wasn't until almost 3 weeks ago when, by fate, I discovered that this is a psychological battle. It's a psychological problem, an emotional pain that I have to work through. That is the root of the chronic pain. And that does not mean the pain is not real. It's a big differentiator. So, pioneer of all of this line of thinking, the mind-body connection, his name is Dr. John Sarno, and he has three kind of big books on what he calls TMS, tension myositis syndrome, which is really just mind-body connection. What happens is the brain creates physical pain in the body, so the pain is real. It's not like it's just in your head. The pain is real, physical pain in your body that the brain creates to distract us from unconscious negative emotions that are stored, repressed in our unconscious. And the brain thinks that it would be too painful to feel those emotions, so it distracts us with physical pain in our body. So TMS can be attributed to, or many different things can be attributed to TMS. And I'm actually going to so in this book, there's a handful of doctors of different kinds who are they're fully bought into the whole philosophy behind TMS, which is still a pretty, how would you call it? It's not mainstream, it's not a fix it quick pill that you could just heal somebody with at the doctor's office. It's a psychological, emotional challenge that people have to work through themselves. And it takes courage, takes a willingness to accept that you have emotional pain. It takes a lot. And a lot of people are not willing to accept these things. And it took me hitting rock bottom of my own pain and trying everything else to realize that is the final frontier. It's the last thing that it's the last option, is understanding what's inside of me instead of looking for something outside of me to fix me. And I kind of just wanted to walk through what one of the doctors, how he describes this mind-body connection, because he lays it out pretty well, just kind of everything that relates to it. So maybe if you see yourself in these words, in this condition, you'll be more interested in learning more about TMS and maybe how it applies to you. Because we all have emotional pain, we all have trauma, that is either repressed, so it's just stored in our unconscious, and maybe it's not causing any physical pain, and in that case, you don't really need to bring it up if you're living normal life. But a lot of us feel pain in different ways. And these things, it could be migraines, it could be just kind of any sort of mysterious pain or illness. Or so I'm gonna let him do the talking here. So one moment. So the book, yeah, The Divided Mind, John Sarno. Incredible. Here we go. Buckle up. Okay. So, introducing patients to TMS. This is how he introduces patients to TMS. Go figure. So he says, in my own book, I start off with these comments. You're probably in pain right now. That is why you are holding this book in your hands, looking for some relief. Perhaps you picked this up because you have heard of Dr. Sarna and TMS. Maybe a friend recommended this to you, or you simply discovered it in the process of searching for answers. Your pain may be in your neck, back, legs, feet, head. It could be anywhere. With the information in this book, I'm optimistic that you'll be able to eliminate your pain no matter where it is. You will do this with knowledge. Simply by changing how you think about the connection between your brain and body, you'll begin to feel better. I will not be recommending oral medication, special exercises, surgery, injections, physical therapy, manipulation, acupuncture, massage therapy, prolotherapy, or any other of the multitude of alternative therapies that have sprung up in an effort to combat the explosion of chronic pain and recurrent pain in our society. Just knowledge. So, something that's incredible about this is all it takes for a lot of people is just reading the books and just learning about it to understand that that is what's happening. And that sets the process of healing in motion, because so much of it is the fear that there's something wrong with us. And just by knowing, wow, I'm not broken, my brain is just trying to protect me, that literally has the power to heal. And I'll explain how I'm feeling. I'm feeling great, just as a preface, but I'll get into it after I read this part. Through the process of education, you will gain a better understanding of how psychology can affect physiology, how your brain can be responsible for the creation of very real physical pain. Armed with that knowledge, you will do battle with your brain and stop the pain. So I am in the process of rewiring my brain right now, unlearning everything that I've learned in the 6 years of thinking that my body's been broken, being afraid of all the movements with back pain, thinking I can't work out the same, thinking I can't live my life. And all that does is feed the fire of this fear and of this pain. When I'm explaining the TMS approach to patients, I provide a similar introduction. He's just a general doctor, general practitioner. It is absolutely essential that they understand that you believe their pain is real, that you are not minimizing or brushing off their complaints. Validation of their discomfort is critical to the success of the doctor-patient relationship. I believe it is even more important with treatment of TMS. Only with complete trust and confidence can we expect someone to effect a paradigm shift in their thinking about the mind-body connection. I then embark on a discussion that I refer to as Psychology 101. We are sentient beings. We have the capacity for thought and emotions. This is what makes us capable of the most extraordinary achievements. Works of art, scientific discoveries, literature, technology, and so on. It is also our downfall. Thinking and feeling allow us to experience both positive and negative emotions. We all seek joy and happiness, but reality intercedes and we all experience sadness and disappointment, anger and frustration. The ability to comprehend the concept of a future carries with it the somewhat less charming sensation of worrying about the future. As I said earlier, life is stressful. Even if we are happy and feel good about our families, jobs, and finances, we all experience stress. Stress, anger, and conflict arise from three main sources. There are, first of all, the everyday issues such as our home and work responsibilities, worry about our children, our parents, inconsiderate drivers, the long line at the market, and the like. Some of us have experienced much emotional distress in childhood. Even if we have made peace with it, that distress is still there. a potential source of unpleasant feelings. Third, our own personalities also predispose us to these troubling emotions. If we have high expectations for ourselves, if we are ambitious and place great demands on ourselves, if we are very conscientious about our performance, then these perfectionist traits are causes of stress. If we go out of our way to help and care for others, even to the point of self-sacrifice, then these goodist traits also create stress as we make our needs subordinate to those around us. So these are the three main kind of pillars that feed the emotions in our unconscious. And so, like I said, like even if it seems like, life is good and you don't really, that emotional stress can't be causing pain. It's like, no, we all can't get through childhood without being unscathed, in some degree. We all have stress of everyday life. And then these traits that we think are good, and actually they are good, being holding yourself to high standards, wanting to help others, being conscientious and considerate. But underneath the surface, they create more stress on us because there's a conflict of like the unconscious mind. Freud called the id, which is just this narcissistic, kind of self-serving, animalistic, just ancient part of our self that doesn't want to do those things, that doesn't want to be responsible, doesn't want to look out for other people, doesn't want to be a caregiver or a good friend. It just wants me, pleasure, and that is where the conflict is created. So if we are these, if we tend to be more perfectionist or these on the surface and in reality, good qualities, which I consider myself, like I put a lot of pressure on myself, hold myself to a high standard. I think I have to be like disciplined, and these things actually cause more stress. And that doesn't mean you have to change anything. Dr. Sarno talks about that. We probably couldn't change even if we wanted to about our personality and traits. But just knowing that that is what's happening is the process. That's part of the process of healing. Continues, these personality traits are not undesirable. They make us successful, kind, considerate. But it is essential to understand how these very qualities can contribute to the accumulation of stress, anger, and conflict. The way our brains work, we repress unpleasant thoughts and emotions, which then find a home in the unconscious. This is a very good defense mechanism. It allows us to move on and take care of our responsibilities and be nice people that others like and respect. Unfortunately, we can only hold so many of these unpleasant thoughts and emotions in the unconscious. Accumulated anger, stress, and conflict become rage. This rage wants to rise to consciousness, but we usually do not let this happen. If it were to happen, we might rant and rave and do things that would not be acceptable, things that would make others not think well of us. To distract us from these unpleasant thoughts and emotions, our brain creates pain, real physical pain. In our society, it is acceptable, even in vogue, to have certain symptoms, such as back pain, headaches, and acid reflux. When we focus on our pain, we're distracted from these causes of rage. This is a brilliant strategy on the part of the brain. Why does this occur? No one can know for sure, but we know this happens because by learning about it, we can stop it. We can stop it and thereby eliminate the pain. So the unconscious mind is the site of repressed and suppressed emotions. It is where the reservoir of rage lurks. The reservoir of rage is Dr. Sarno's term, and I think it provides a compelling image for the origin of pain. To summarize, Dr. Sarno has identified 3 potential sources for this rage in the unconscious. In each person, the quantity from each source will vary. Stresses and strains of everyday life, the residue of anger from infancy and childhood, internal conflict, self-imposed pressure, class of the id and the superego. It all comes from perfectionist and goodist traits. And man, once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's like, I was one of the people who, for 6 years, didn't really believe this stuff because I wanted it to be physical. I wanted to believe that if I could fix my body physically, then the back pain would go away. And I just kept trying, kept believing, kept doing new things, and it just never did. And now that I see it this way, it's like, my God, there's a lot in my childhood that I've just not worked through. I'm working with a therapist now, journaling every day, and I'll get into how you actually overcome it and what I'm doing, what I'm in the process of doing right now. It's pretty extraordinarily exciting to be in this season. I'll get to that soon. Unpleasant thoughts and emotions may be pushed into the unconscious as they would be difficult to bear. If we attempted to deal with them, it is possible that we would somehow become incapacitated in one of two ways. First, the id could take over, in which case angry, belligerent behavior would occur. In my lectures, I refer to a ranting, raving lunatic, someone in need of a straitjacket. Behaving like that is not acceptable, so we push these thoughts away rather than act inappropriately and be ostracized. Second, we could become paralyzed with grief, unable to function in the face of unpleasantness. But we don't want that either, because then we'd be shirking our responsibilities. Repressing or suppressing thoughts and emotions that are unpleasant, disagreeable, or unacceptable allows us to carry on, but adds to the reservoir of rage. It helps to think of rage as accumulated stress. Not all sources of stress are equal. Some may be annoying nuisances, while others may be enormous. This is a critical concept. I've seen many patients who struggle with it. They're unable to conceive of a source of rage or a serious stressor. They may doubt that they have such a reservoir in their unconscious. But it's important to remember the reservoir can fill with unpleasant thoughts and emotions of all sizes. Another very important concept, reservoirs come in all sizes. It's true. A common misconception is that the onset of pain must coincide with some obvious source of stress. While this can sometimes occur, like getting a headache on a bad day, it is often not the case. This can be a difficult obstacle for people to get over. Many times, people insist that everything is fine, that the pain began on vacation when everything in their life was grand, that they didn't do anything to bring it on. They will say, "Why now?" This may cause serious doubts for them. The TMS could be the cause. Go back to the reservoir of rage. There's always stress, even if life is good. I think we all know that, right? We all worry to some degree, and we all have the eternal internal conflict between the id and the superego. So like I was saying, Freud called the id that kind of primitive part of our individual self, that narcissistic, self-serving, just like it's the negative traits, I guess. It's the underneath the surface. It's just the bare bones of what we are as animals. Then you got the ego, which is more of like the captain of the ship. It's makes the conscious decisions. It wants the best for us. Then the superego is our consciousness. It's kind of society pressures, and we don't just have to be a good, normal person. We got to be a saint. We have to be doing our absolute best, looking out for people, and if we don't, we hear it. We hear some voice that says, you could do better, all that stuff, and that's what we call the superego. So there's three parts that interplay at all times. Okay. Like the straw that breaks the camel's back, some little unpleasant thought, emotion, or stressor is tossed into the reservoir, which is now threatening to overflow. The brain will not allow it to overflow or rise to consciousness, and in order to distract us and keep the reservoir and its contents hidden in the unconscious, it creates pain. Perhaps, just perhaps, by creating pain, the brain not only causes distraction, but the expansion of that reservoir. Like I said, if I thought that my chronic pain came from an injury, but looking back, I had a lot of these random pains throughout my life, like growing pains as a kid, headaches growing up, stomach aches, kind of an eating disorder like after college, and just like body issues in college. And this is all stuff that they talk about related to TMS. It's pretty much like psychological things that we don't really know where they come from. And it comes from that emotional pain. Like, it just makes so much sense. There's things in childhood that really, truly affect us deeply. And just to be conscious of them and realize how they shape us very healing. Now you understand about the reservoir of rage. These unpleasant thoughts and emotions strive to rise to consciousness, which would be completely unacceptable. To prevent this from happening, the brain creates pain as a distraction. As a society, we are very somatically focused, preoccupied with every ache or pain. By focusing our attention on physical symptoms, we keep these painful thoughts and emotions repressed. This is a very effective strategy, and as evidence of that fact, there's an absolute epidemic of mind-body disorders in our society. Because full understanding of these points is crucial for symptom resolution, I then reiterate. TMS is a strategy of the brain to keep unpleasant thoughts and emotions from rising from the unconscious into the conscious mind. The brain, through established physiologic pathways, creates pain as a distraction. By focusing our attention on physical symptoms, we keep these painful thoughts and emotions repressed. This is a very effective strategy, as there is an absolute epidemic of mind-body disorders in our society. That's the crux of the situation. I then review some examples, including their own symptoms, and explain. Eliminating the pain is startlingly simple. We could banish the pain and thwart the brain's strategy by simply understanding and accepting the pain has a psychological causation, that it is not physically based. And, check that it is not physically based first. That's the first step. Like, is this a structural problem? And I had nothing that showed true structural damage. Most people have bulging discs in their spine as they grow older. It's nothing that should cause pain. And that's really all I had. And it's also pain that spreads around the body to different parts and to varying degrees randomly. These are also signs of TMS, emotional pain. Sometimes it's in my hips, the front or the back or the sides. Sometimes it's in the mid-back. Sometimes it's in the middle. Sometimes in the left. Literally anywhere. That shouldn't not be happening. This is a simple concept, but sometimes challenging to implement. When I first met Dr. Sarna, I had a number of questions about TMS treatment and how to help my patients. My number one question was, is it really as simple as getting patients to learn how to think differently? The answer is yes, but with the understanding that the mental work involved may be considerable. That's a crucial point, that it takes work. I'm dedicating months to this, what I'm calling my emotional odyssey of like truly understanding myself and what I'm repressing, and it takes work. It's not easy, and that's why it's almost harder to accept, because it's like, oh, I don't have emotional pain. That just sounds like a lot of work, to get my physical pain to go away. I have to figure out like what is going on with my emotions. It just sounds tough. Because it's not a quick fix. It's not a pill. It's not an injection. It's gonna say this will fix you. And even when those things do work, they're likely just placebos. So surgery, injections, they make us think that we did something to fix us. So placebo effect, and we feel fixed, but that only lasts for a few months. Or if it does last, then what happens is there's usually the pain is transferred to something else mysterious in the body because the emotion is still there. So strategies of treatment. First one, make a list. Think of anything that could be a source of stress for you. Think about what makes you angry or enraged. Think of what things you worry about. Think about your personality. I mean, this sounds like a lot of work, right? Like, it's no joke. Identify perfectionist and or goodist traits. Are the people in your life who did not treat you as well as you would have liked? Write all of this down. But let me just say, it's the most rewarding work that we could possibly do. That's what I'm doing, and it's working. Write all of this down. It is possible to know what is in your unconscious. It is impossible to know what is in your unconscious, but it is possible to contemplate what might be there. By acknowledging the presence of these unpleasant thoughts and emotions, you can thwart the brain's strategy. Thwart. Great word. As you undoubtedly recall, the brain's strategy is to create pain, pain that will serve as a distraction. Focusing on the pain is a type of defense mechanism. It keeps us from thinking about those things that make us upset, worried, or angry. The pain keeps the reservoir of rage hidden. When we recognize that it is there and what it may contain, there's no need for the pain because there is no further need for distraction. So all day when I do feel brain sensations, what used to be pain, I think psychologically, what emotion am I feeling right now? What does this make me feel? Just checking in with myself. And it's just making me much more conscious of what's going on. Check in with my breathing. And that on many occasions already has made the pain just fade away. And saying to yourself, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to protect me, but I don't need your protection anymore. I can face the emotion. I want to, and I need to. And for some people, it might be harder to face emotions than to deal with physical pain, but I would do anything to be out of physical pain because this is understanding yourself. This is for the first time, truly, I've never gone this deep. I thought things were resolved in my past, but there are things that I'm still holding on to or anger that I'm still harboring, and I got to work through those things. And when I feel pain, it makes me think about that. What am I still holding on to? What do I need to dig deeper into? What are these things that look good and I tell myself are good, but that are beliefs that are maybe holding me back? Next one. So what I've done, he says make a list. So I made a list. Dr. Sarno writes about, there's three, pools of that feed into the reservoir of rage. So everything from childhood that made you, that could be said, made you not be able to be a kid. Anything from childhood that made you angry, or just things that you went through that could be traumatic, experiences, times you felt inadequate, just like anything that could possibly, feed into this repressed emotion from childhood. Make a list of all those things. Make a list of there's things that annoy you in everyday life, just stressors that are going on, and then your personality traits, good and bad. Actually, I think just good. Just a list of all these things that you think are that describe you and could be just creating more stress. And then every day, right? 20 minutes, set a timer, and just journal, freehand, pen and paper, old school, about that thing. Just let your mind run with it. It is extremely therapeutic. And what happens is you start with this idea and it usually veers into something else. Like each day I do this, it's like I'm like halfway through and then I write like, oh my God, didn't even realize, like it turns into, goes down a different path. And that's what is truly underneath the surface of that emotion or that trait or that memory. So it is very interesting. Reflect. By now you've figured out that it is a process of self-education that will help you feel better. It is amazing. No medication, no physical remedies, and no side effects. Set aside time each day to think about TMS theory and treatment. Read and reread my book and Dr. Sarno's books. It's not necessary to read everything, but it will be helpful to reread passages that you find particularly pertinent. Even when you feel well, spend some time each day on this material. This will help you remain well. It's good preventative medicine. This is a lifelong journey, I'm going hard for the next 3 months it's pretty much like everything I'm thinking about and doing is revolving around this emotional odyssey because I got to get out of this pain, but it's a lifelong journey. This is just me opening the door, crossing the threshold from being a kid to growing up and truly understanding myself and it's like I'm being reborn, like a phoenix. It's it's incredible. Discard your physical remedies. Get rid of the special back supports, the heel pads, the orthotics, the pillows, the chair cushions, and so on. They cannot fix the problem, and you don't need them. These things are treating the symptoms, not the root. I got rid of, well, I got like little balls that I roll on. Just that's good for the body, but little pillows that are supposed to be for lumbar support and orthotics in your shoes. Like, we don't need that stuff. We're humans. We don't need these little fucking things to make us a little more comfortable to just survive. Like, we got bodies. They're supposed to be thriving. And yeah, modern day is, first of all, just making so much money from our pain. Second of all, it's just so unnecessary. It's liberating to realize we don't need any of that stuff. You might like a soft bed, but it's not causing your back pain. Like this, the firmness of your bed or your shoe inserts, or like, simplify and get rid of that stuff. Physical modalities cannot help symptoms that have a psychological cause. Their very existence is part of the old conditioning and will only perpetuate the symptoms. If you're taking narcotic pain medications, you'll need to wean yourself off these gradually under a physician's supervision. Yep. These medications only mask symptoms and cannot cure them. In addition, they're physically and psychologically addicting and will only perpetuate the symptoms. They will also impair cognition and interfere with your efforts at self-education. I am taking off of alcohol indefinitely and also off of social media while I'm going through this, and I feel so good. Like, my body's never felt, it's been about a month off of alcohol, I think. It opens up everything. You just feel so much better on the weekends, just not being hungover. It's like the momentum that you start building, the clarity that you start building, the joy. And, it's not easy if your friends are drinking, and there is always FOMO or whatever. But to wake up, to realize the bigger picture of what you are striving to do, that makes it worth it. And like I said, this is crossing the threshold into the rest of my life. I love to have fun just as much as anybody, and I always will, but this is the most important thing I could ever do, and we got to make some sacrifices. Be eternally vigilant. Eternal vigilance is the proverbial ounce of prevention. This is why it is necessary to spend some time each day reflecting. Celebrate the good days. This is essential to reverse the old condition. Tell yourself you are indeed fine. If you had a physical problem, where did it go? However, do not be discouraged if pain returns or occurs at another location. Remember, your brain does not want to give up its strategy of distracting you with the pain. This is how we are made. And resume activity. I could talk about this. Yeah. Resume activity. That just goes to the fighting back the fear. Fear is the killer. Fear. Sorry, I'm thinking about, I talked about fear before. My buddy commented the quote from Dune about fear. Thank you for that. Cashcade on YouTube. Cashcade. Fear is the killer in everything. And that's why this process does not only heal you, it changes everything about your life. Because then you realize that we're fearing so many things. And this is just a microcosm of what we fear, in the bigger picture of our lives. And me, just as much as anybody, trust me. I fear, and I'm excited to learn more, like in therapy, about the things that I'm fearing and the beliefs that are holding me back. And you got to slowly but surely get back to your old workouts and just your old activity. And I'm doing that. I think I went a little bit too fast the first week and got stung by a bee. It was kind of a sign from the universe, but took it slower this week. The weekend have just been not going to the gym, but just like walking, and I feel really good right now. But getting back to those things, bending, if you have back pain, like just bend over, be a human. We got to get out of the conditioned robotic responses that we think we have to live by if we have back pain. And yeah, it's obviously a angering subject for me, but I'm going to call that, but I don't know. Right now, life is just absolutely beyond my comprehension. Here in Tokyo, I'm having this experience of healing myself and knowing myself, and just this point in my life where I'm not a kid anymore. I went to school, grew up. It wasn't the easiest childhood. A lot of things that was very interesting. It was very fun. My parents were divorced, and I had two houses and uh, stepmom, and I still have these things, but it wasn't easy. And I think as a kid, I just kind of repressed a lot of things. I shut down instead of being more vocal with my anger and sadness. I would just be quiet. And that's something I've carried with me up until now. And I think there's a lot of just stuff that I've not let out. And it transferred into pain in my body. And went through my entire 20s, these very formative years of exploring and figuring out who we are. And I was just in pain the entire time. Physical pain, making me wonder, why, what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. How do I get over this? Will this be me forever? I couldn't fathom that at this age I'm healthy, that my body is just giving me this unexplainable pain. And it's taught me more than anything I could ever describe that life gives us these gifts wrapped as inconveniences or outright disasters or difficulties, challenges. But these are the things that make us. And I kept the faith. Tattoo there, keep the faith. To remind myself, the tattoos to remind myself of the season of my life, but no matter what, I broke down so many times, just crying and unexplainable emotion. And each time I would learn something, or I would connect more closely with a friend, or I would let my guard down and tell somebody that I was hurting at work, or a journal, go deeper in myself. I'll distract myself in a positive way by writing or reading or watching a funny movie. Something would happen in those lows, and each time I learned more about what life means to me and what it can be and what it is for all of us, because we all will go through pain. We'll all go through things we cannot explain. And we have two choices. Two choices in how we react. And that's to be a victim and say, this happened to me. Why me? The world should fix my pain. The world should make this better. This shouldn't have happened. I have to get back at people. Or we could say, yeah, this happened, but what can I change about that? What am I going to do about it? Am I going to use it to grow? Am I going to use it to be the best that I could be? Am I going to still keep fighting and do my best and try to be a good person despite whatever I go through? Because the pain, at the very least, made me see that everybody is going through something. It doesn't matter who you are. It could be the richest, the richest kid on earth or the richest person on earth, and they have more problems than the rest of us. Everyone's going through something, and it does not matter who you are. Truly, I believe that. And pain is pain. Comparing it is a fruitless endeavor. It doesn't matter who's suffering more. We're all going through stuff, and this just helped me connect with people I'm doing this because I felt pain for so long. I'm starting to just voice it and just document this journey to hopefully help some other people too. And it has been such a gift. It's made me so grateful for every day that I'm just alive. And Earth, the Earth, it's so beautiful. It's the simplest things that have got me through this time. It's friends, it's just feeling the sun, the wind, just being out there, going for a walk, even when I could barely stand up straight. Just feeling the breath, being grateful that I have two legs to walk, hands that work, eyes that see, ears that hear, I can speak, my mind works. It's so much to be grateful for. And these things could so easily get us down and get us in this spiral of despair. But we're so caught up in things that really don't matter in the end. All that matters to me is health at this point. Like, to feel good, it doesn't matter what you have. If you are alive, you're doing a little bit better than yesterday, what more can you ask for? That's all we're here to do. Keep moving forward, keep striving, keep doing your best. Day by day, that is truly the only way to get through this, to get better. Every day is a miracle. And all we got to do is focus on today. That's all we can do. Enjoy it, cherish it, cherish every step of the journey of healing, discovering who you are, of moving forward in life, of getting through a difficult time. Because when this is all said and done, I know I'm going to look back at this and be like, holy fuck, that was the most transformative, most meaningful time of my life. I was in my 20s and I was just battling, fucking battling the sword of light. No matter how dark the world has seemed, I never stopped. I never will stop. And man, I had be proud of what you're doing. Be proud of what you made it through. Be proud of where you're going. I hope you are proud. Because if you are battling with something, you should be. Just do not lose the faith. I know that I'm going to get through this and my life is going to be unlike anything I could possibly imagine. Taking what I've learned from this season, it's just going to blossom because I've dealt with this shadow over me for so long. When it's just another sunny day, it's going to be limitless. But this, who I am right now, who I've been in the last 6 years, the kid who did not give up, I'll never be more proud of myself than in those dark times. Who I was, that I still smiled. I still tried to help others. I just continued. I broke down. It's far from easy, but just keep soldiering on because we will get through it. Much love, fam. Keep the faith.